Hi everyone, my name is Scott and I'm going to share my journey as an INFJ. In this video I'll unpack the functions and how I see that they work in my life. I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody's comments and feedback on some of the videos and for watching the videos. It's been quite awesome really to see that the videos that I've made so far are resonating with people and that people are finding them beneficial. I think when it comes to the MBTI, I'm certainly not a purist when it comes to the model. I guess I things more holistically. So I like the MBTI model to the extent that it informs me and helps me to gain insight and understanding on myself and other personality types and the interactions between the two. But that's about as far as it goes. I don't like getting too bogged down in. I use the structure to the extent that I gain insight, but I don't want to. I don't want to set up base camp in around the model, if that makes sense, because I find the moment that I do that, it limits my introverted intuition if I get too stuck in the model itself. So I find that talking in front of a camera really kind of shuts my FE function down, obviously, because I'm not talking to another person. So I find I'm very much not as animated as I probably would be if I was sharing this with a person in front of me, reading their body language, getting sort of feedback from them. And so I find when I'm standing in front of the camera like this, the FE kind of gets dulled down, if you like, and it's sort of the NI and the TI that are more present, I think. However, I think as time goes by, and I get more into the video, I think I sort of loosen up a little bit, and but I think just initially talking to a camera kind of dulls sort of the FE expression. I think one of the other things worth mentioning before I really get into the video is to share that quite often before making a video, I'll have a lot of, my introverted intuition will be thinking of a whole lot of different concepts and ideas, and really get a really good idea of what I would want to say, and then get in front of this camera and look at this sort of bit of material, physical material in front of me, and find the NI sort of just all of those intuitive moments and thoughts and ideas and how they all connect kind of just fades into the background, or just they kind of just disappear. And I think half of it is being in an NI space where all of those ideas are flowing. Then to come in front of a camera requires sort of like more of the SE, and kind of coming more to the forefront. The SE, I think, in some respects, kind of drowns out, or it doesn't so much pollute, but it just sort of limits, I think, the introverted intuition. One of the things I want to try to avoid in this video is sort of an INFJ brainstorm, where you see me more trying to think about what I'm wanting to say rather than what I want to say. So I've done a little bit of pre-work, I suppose, or just writing some things down as they've come to mind, just to help with the flow of the video. So you get more of the content, or more of the insight, I guess, that I would like to get out there, rather than me trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. So I'll start by talking about my NI function. And when I was thinking about it, in some respects, and I agree with some of the other what some other people say on some of the INFJ videos, that really don't know how it works. The way that I see it, I guess, is that I feed it information, and then I wait for the insights, if you like, or for how I think or feel about it to emerge as I'm engaging with a person, or reading a book, or thinking about ideas, or watching a documentary. It's like it's almost like it doesn't exist. It only exists because it only exists when it begins to inform me about things. And I guess just a really practical example would be when I was at college and I would be writing essays. There would be sort of like half an hour, sometimes an hour, where I would just be wrestling with getting into it. I'd be reading reference material and reading the question and thinking about it, and it was like walking through wet cement, and not a lot would be happening in that time. But I learned to sort of trust that I'd eventually get through that. And really what was happening is, as I read the material, it would kind of go into me, and then it would sort of, eventually the NI would start to fire up, and then I'd start to think about or get insights into various areas of what I'm reading about. Excuse me. And I'd see connections between ideas and different aspects of what it was that I was trying to write about. And and sometimes that could be quite a flurry of information. And what I'd tend to do is just type everything that's coming to my mind, ideas, thoughts, concepts. I'd just be like the NI would just sort of just start giving me all of this information, which was almost like a high, I think, for an INFJ. When that's happening, it's like an internal kind of excitement, and I think in some respects, the more excited. Let me backtrack. The more the NI is informing me, the more subdued I think I look to other people. Whereas inside, it's the opposite. And in some ways, I think the best way to describe what goes on the inside of me when I'm having all of these insights and ideas flowing, is to look at an ENTP when they're firing on all cylinders. When their FE is going for it. In some ways, I think their excitement or external expression of their FE is kind of what's going on inside of me when I'm having a similar level of insight and concepts coming to mind and so on. I think where the TI fits into that is that I guess through going to college, it really helped to develop my introverted thinking, and that in some respects I see that my TI, it's kind of like it weaves its way through the NI. So when my introverted intuition is really coming up with all of these ideas or whatever, it's the TI that kind of weaves it all together, helps it to make sense and give it a structure. And in a way, the NI ideas and process, the process towards coming up with all of the ideas and all the insights is the easy bit. The hardest part of it is the TI, because then I'll sit there and try to, like I could spend 15 minutes on one sentence trying to find the right word, move a comma here, take an and out there, put a the in there, and the TI, trying to find the exact right word. And I think what makes it even more complex, if you like, is the FE function, in that trying to write it so that the reader is able to get the feeling of what's being said. Like, I think I tend to try to, I spend a lot of time structuring something so that it's deliverable or receivable by the person that might read it. So the TI and the FE function kind of slows down the process, making it, I know some people that would take a couple of hours to write an essay, where it take me a week and a half. And I think for me that's the TI, just trying to find the exact perfect way to say something, and making sure that there's a right amount of that whoever is going to be reading it is going to understand it in an emotional sense. I think when it comes to talking to people, it's quite similar, in that I think I use my NI in two ways. One of them is maybe, let's say, in a group setting. Well, let me talk about group work or a group conversation. My tendency in a group conversation is to sit and listen, and it's a bit of a catch-22, because in order for me to be able to participate in a group discussion, I need to be able to just sit and listen. Yet there's always a bit of a tension that I'm not contributing. And sometimes, especially in college a few years ago now, but sometimes I think, oh look, I need to say something here, because all I'm doing is listening. And I'd say something prematurely, say something that hasn't been filtered through the TI, is more because I feel like I have to contribute something. And for me, I know it just doesn't, it's almost embarrassing, because it doesn't add, I don't feel like it added to the discussion. In fact, I felt like I threw a stumbling block in the group processing, as everyone was sharing ideas and all of that. I found whenever I said something in those moments, just for the sake of it, that it kind of, it seemed to jar it a little bit, and so, which the FE function would pick up on pretty quickly. But what I'd find I'd do in group conversations is, people would be sharing all sorts of different ideas and their take on it, and for me, my introverted intuition would love that, would just love sitting there and absorbing, and I'm not really doing anything. I'm not even consciously really thinking about what's being said. I'm just taking it all in, and by the end of the conversation, my introverted intuition then starts to inform me and starts to get common themes that are being shared, or how what that person said over there relates to this over here, and so on and so forth. And it would kind of sometimes almost be like a package. Like I'd be able to sort of summarize all of the, maybe 7 or 8 people, be able to summarize what everybody said in a cohesive, logical stream. I'm not sure how much that benefited the group. I think perhaps it did for people, rather than it just be a whole heap of people just sharing their ideas and then we just walk away. I think the way I might contribute to a group discussion is to be able to weave it all together in some kind of logical sequence that's both practical and helpful. So there's a very long description of various aspects of my NI. Yeah, so just to backtrack, my NI works in one of two ways. That the first one is that I'm able to process and have my introverted thinking think about everything that my NI is coming up with and make sense of it, and then deliver it quite fluently and clearly. The other way it works is on the fly, whereby I'm, rather than come up with a TI logic, how do I describe it? It's more that my introverted intuition is informing me in the moment. So I might be in a conversation with somebody and I'll be finding that it's like as the NI comes up with things, it comes out of me. And the strange thing about that is I often don't know what I'm going to say until I've said it myself. So it's both a surprise to the hearer as well as it is to me, as I wrestle to kind of get a sense of my introverted intuition on something and share it as it's coming to me. That also can be quite I don't know if exciting's the right word, but I guess it works because it's often the feedback I get from people is that my NI is spot on. Just back on writing essays, I found that I often didn't know exactly what I was going to say until I'd finished it. And I guess it goes back to sort of when the NI is, when I'm in my NI in the moment where it's informing me at the time. I often, I have a general idea of what I'm trying to say or what I need to say in an essay or something like that. But I think generally, it's not till I've finished it that I've realised, that's what I was trying to say. I'm not sure if other INFJs identify with that. Be interesting to know. And it's that sort of intuition that would tell me when a essay is finished, or when something is finished. There's just a sense of, I guess it's probably the J in the INFJ of finishing it well, finishing it right, having that sense of it is, whatever it is finished, and now it's time to move on to the next thing. And I think the downside to that is that because of the TI and the FE dynamic, it could take ages before I get that sense that something is finished and completed. Where other people might have finished 10 drafts ago, I'm still going, perfecting words, moving things around, or just making sure for me that it's just right. And I think there's a great level of satisfaction that comes with that, but it's also quite draining. It's not so much draining, but it takes a lot of time. And it's probably not too, time. When in regards to time management, it's probably not the greatest thing, especially when life pressures do begin to add up. Yeah, and back on the FE the FE area, if I'm talking with somebody, my FE, the way the FE works for me is that I'm always, there's an FETI connection where I'm constantly reading the emotional space, and I guess my extroverted sensing also informs me of what's going on through subtle changes in body language. So I'm always making sure that what I'm saying is going to be received. So the FE is kind of gauging what's going on in the room or with the person, and then that informs my introverted thinking to find the best way to say what I need to say. And in the kind of work that I do, that's very important. It's not so much important on a real casual conversation, but a more in-depth conversation. That's the FETI thing is definitely happening.